Well, good morning and happy Friday. Oh, I know I shouldn't put the day of the week on there because this is going to live on in perpetuity, but welcome to the Off the Rails Sports Podcast. Here I am with the superstar of all superstars, Brian. How you doing today?
Hey, doing great this morning. How are you? You
Eh,
got some sunshine out there and blue
I
skies behind.
do. Hey, I need to get some vitamin D. I got to keep this all working. Okay. When I walk down the street, people go, Brad Pitt. And I say, yeah. And they go, do you know him? Do you use bodyguard? And I'm like, yeah, I am. I am. Right. Look at all those medals you got there. That is an impressive array, my friend.
Thanks. That's
That is,
half.
oh man. Oh my
Oh,
God. You can,
there.
oh, I love it.
Yeah. So
God dang. Wow. Look at you. All right. We are gonna do a preview of the AL East. We were gonna do the whole AL, but honestly, Brian and I being Red Sox fans, I know we can spend 20 minutes just talking about our beloved Red Sox. But we're gonna go through the AL East. And in memory, or to celebrate, let's say to celebrate Van Halen Friday, we're gonna start with bottoms up. Let's start with Tampa Bay, the dumpster fire that is the Rays, the Devil Rays, whatever they're going to be called. Uh I'm
yeah.
going to just make a quick overview here and then Brian I'll let you go with it. There's something really wrong with Tampa Bay ownership. I've always kind of admired them and Scheinberg. They've always tried to put a competitive team on the field. They had the hurricane, it destroyed the dome. Then all of a sudden they came to some type of agreement for like 1.3 billion for a new stadium on the other side of the parking lot. And then Scheinberg, the owner, kind of pulled out. And even Rob Manfred, who literally is the most terrible commissioner of all sports, said, we need to get new ownership down there, which I mean, he hasn't said anything about Oakland in 20 years. So, like, wow, how crazy is that? All right, give me your views on what you think about the Tampa Bay Rays.
They're kind of a joke and always
Okay.
have been, even though they've had some success over the last decade or so. Uh, because they do it with smoke and mirrors, really, when they are successful. I mean, they come up with these players who you've never heard of. They'll have a good run in the Tampa Bay system. They never move on and become great players anywhere else. Also, that's the kind of weird thing about those guys, you know. Evan Longoria was this great third baseman when he came up, but he went over to San Francisco and we never heard from him again.
Yeah,
Remember Scott Kazmir, the great left-handed pitcher?
sure.
Yeah, he
It's a
left,
great
went to
name.
the Angels, never heard from him again. It's weird that the guys come up in their system and they do pretty good. Tampa Bay will make a run; they'll get in the playoffs, and they even got to the World Series one and a half times. But for whatever, they find a way to compete with a bunch of bits and pieces that they just
Right.
string together. But they're really, nobody's really ever that great. Carl Crawford, sorry,
You're right. Yeah, that's a great example, another
it's weird how
another
they do
great
it, though.
yeah, that's a great thing.
I
I
guess
will say what
I was going to say the one player that does seem to have moved on from Tampa Bay and still been very successful is Blake Snell. But he's really
yeah.
the only one you can mention, right?
I agree with that. I think that, but I'll tell you the thing. I mean, they had made the playoffs 5 straight years until last year. I agree with you. I just they're somehow doing it with smoke and mirrors. I will say the thing that shocked me was in this offseason, they signed Michael Kim, I believe it is, to a 2-year, $29 million deal from San Diego. I mean, he's a good shortstop, but I'm thinking, why are it's like painting the outside of the dumpster. I mean, it's like, what are you really trying to accomplish here? But I do think I will say this. I think they try and win. I do. I think there's I don't know how they do it, but I do think they're unlike Oakland and Pittsburgh that are making a concerted effort to try and do with whatever quote unquote limited resources they have that they're trying to get somewhere. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, they,
All
they
right.
like It's the smoke and mirrors. They compete. It's weird how they do it. Their stadium sucks. I hate watching games there on
You're
TV.
right.
And when the roof got ripped off, I was like, okay, cool. At least they'll have open air like a real
Yeah.
team. And then
Yeah.
they decided, no, we're going to play in the Yankees spring training facility.
Yeah. Yeah. And do you know that that spring training facility has the exact same dimensions as Yankee Stadium? I didn't know that. So obviously if you're a left-handed hitter, you're gonna have some good days.
Yeah. Well, I think a
All
lot
right.
of teams are doing that now too. The
Yeah.
Red Sox Jet Blue is built to specs of Fenway.
Right. Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go to the next layer in the dumpster fire that is the AL East. Toronto. Give me your initial impressions about Toronto.
Well, because you took the ball and ran with it first, I would have Toronto below Tampa
Okay.
in my level of the dumpster.
Okay. I get it. I get it.
They're worse off because they don't have the smoke and mirrors to even fake their way through it. They seem to have some good players. I mean, Vladdy was great last year. He's had a couple of really good years, and he's looking for that big contract. So I would say he'll probably be hitting really well this year. Bo Bichette's never really panned out to be a superstar type player like I think he was expected to be. George Springer's tired and over. Their pitching is okay, but they just never seem to put anything together to meet the expectations that are created for them.
Yeah. I'm gonna say this. The key to this team is Bo Bichette. Bo Bichette, if you look at him from 21 to 24, that guy was a stud. And I'm going to go out here on the limb and say we are living in the best era of shortstops in baseball history. If you look at the top 6 or 8 shortstops, these guys are off the chart. You're looking at Gunnar Henderson. You're looking at Corey Seager. You're looking at Trey Turner. You're looking at Lindor. You're looking at Correa. Bo Bichette was up there. And then last year, he was injured, but even when he came back, he was terrible. And I don't, I agree with you, what you're saying. Gosman is kind of on the downward spiral. His strikeout rate's going down. Let me ask you just a quick question. If you had to guess, more likely, is Vlade going to sign a contract with them this year, or is he going to get traded?
I would lean towards sign a contract
Yeah, I think
because I
that's
think I think his I mean I don't know what those tampering rules have. I know players can, but the agent's going to be putting feelers out there, right? They're going to be
absolutely.
putting if he hits free agency, what are we looking at? And we've had this discussion before, and just in phone calls or whatever. But there's not a big market for first baseman anymore. It's
You're
it's just
right.
not there.
Yeah.
So I think his best bet is going to be to re-sign with them. If you're looking at where's he going to get the most money, he's worth more
Yeah.
to them than he would be to any other team.
At some point they got to reward the fan base and say, hey, we sign the guys that we develop, right? I mean, they've got to have the faith. All right, let's move over to a team that really I'm not too high on. What's your initial projections or your thoughts on the Baltimore Orioles?
Uh, very, very good offensive team. Great group of young players, exciting players. The fan base is pumped up. They made the playoffs a couple of years, got their ass kicked, but that's okay. They made it after a complete tanking rebuild job. They just forgot one thing. You have to pitch the ball.
Yeah, this
They don't
isn't
have any,
softball, right?
they don't have any pitchers. None.
No, none. They
So
don't.
that's going to be their downfall. I mean, they got to win 10-7 every night. It's pretty tough to score 10 runs every night.
There's there's a couple things. That drafting that they did for that 4 years was amazing. I mean, They were getting the Rushmans, they were getting the Hendersons, they were getting the Holidays. They were just killing it. But you're absolutely right. They didn't get any pitching. And I just want to inform our listeners that Charlie Morton, who is on the staff, who is their number two starter, is going to be the first player in baseball since Manny Mota and Minnie Minosa to get a Social Security check along with an MLB check every week. But that's your number two starter. And I think I'll tell you what worries me about them on the offensive side. They brought the fences in this year. They brought them in another 10 feet, which is going to help the offense. But as you say, they got to pitch the ball. I mean,
Yep.
good luck. Good luck. There goes the team ERA up another half run, right? Zach
Yep.
Elfin, Charlie Morton, good luck, guys. And another thing that kind of trips me out a little is Ashley Rushman is obviously a really really good catcher, but it didn't seem like when he catched last year or caught, I guess would be the better term. Let me use English today. Is his splits were terrible, and actually when they got to the playoffs they put him at DH in first base, and I'm thinking to myself, is this guy just one of those guys who can't catch and hit? Because obviously they need his bat, but I guess we're going to see what the thing brings. And I will say this, the most underrated player in baseball is hands down Gunnar Henderson. If Bobby Witt Jr. wasn't the shortstop of the future, everybody would have looked at those numbers Gunnar Henderson put up last year and said, Jesus criminy, that guy is a top three in MVP every year.
Yeah, he's their best player for sure, and he's still going on the upward trajectory. So that's good. They got. I think they're. Last year Jackson Holiday came up with. Oh my God, the fanfare made me want to throw up. In fact, I think
Right.
I did my mouth a couple of times. But
Yeah. I could see some on one of those medals. Yeah. Mm
he tanked wonderfully as a Red
hmm. Mm hmm.
Sox fan. I can say that he tanked wonderfully when he first came up. They sent him back down. He came up. He did okay when he came back up. They need him to become just as much as Gunnar Henderson. If they
Yeah.
do that, they'll be a lot better off. But again, their whole downfall is going to be pitching. They might make it into the playoffs again with a wild card. They might hit their way into it, but I mean, they're not going to go anywhere in the playoffs. You got to pitch in the playoffs. So
You got
we'll
to
see.
pitch to get there, brother. You're right. Absolutely. All right, let's leave the red meat for the end of the thing. Let's talk about the hated New York Yankees. Uh, Brian, you can start.
Okay, I don't hate the Yankees.
Well, then you're not a real Red Sox fan. Let's move on. Continue. All right.
I respect the Yankees. A team that's had the success that they've had for so long, just in my lifetime, is incredible. And yeah, they're annoying, especially their fans when they talk about all their World Series because most of them happened, pre-Vietnam, right? Talk about living in the past.
Korea War.
Yeah. So, but they're going to compete. Brian Cashman has a good knack of uh, filling the voids that they always
Mhm.
have with injuries. The Yankees have tremendous amount of injuries every year. Their training staff must totally suck. I should probably get a job training their guys
You should.
uh, because they have way too many injuries as far as I'm concerned. Uh, but they find a way. They got rid of Alex Verdugo. That's great. They,
Yes.
they lost
Hallelujah.
they lost Stanton for the year, and that's not going to hurt them at all, as my
No.
opinion, because he's never been anything on that team since he's been there that they could ever count on. So if he's gone, they're not missing anything. Judge, of course, is their best player. He's their key to everything. If he goes out for any extended period of time, it's going to be a crap show. But Garrett Cole, they won't miss him, I don't think, that much either because they hardly had him last year and they went to the World Series. So they're going to find a way. They're going to compete. They might win the division. They'll make the playoffs for sure. They're they're going to find a way. They'll probably make some trades at the deadline, or they're going to call up someone from AAA who's going to fill a gap that they have, and they're going to compete.
You know, I literally want to stomp on their grave, and I think this is going to be the year. First of all, let's start out with I don't think we have ever seen a team go to the World Series and 6 months later look so much different. And I can't wait. I want to see what their opening montage when they have opening day and they do the little stuff on the recap of the year before. Are they going to show Juan Soto's home run that sent them to the World Series? Yeah, I can't wait for that. First of all, I don't know who the number two hitter is on this team. Look, I agree with you. I respect the Yankees. They haven't had a losing record in, I believe, 30 years or something to that effect. I mean, they're a winning organization. There's a culture there. I'm not gonna jump too far down their throat. But I don't know who the second best hitter is. They picked up Goldschmidt. I don't think that's gonna really work out. I'm very skeptical of the Cody Bellinger signing. I am worried that they're going to lose 250 innings out of Cole and Luis Gill, who's not going to be pitching till probably June. I think that's going to be a big problem. And then they lost Clint Holmes out of the bullpen, and then all of a sudden he's like a frontline starter for the Mets. And I'm thinking, how did they miss that in pitching development? Like, what is that? I look at this team and they're going to be solid. I think they're a solid second place team. But at the end of the day, and God forbid, Judge gets hurt. I mean, we're looking at a team that could really be a dumpster fire really, really quick.
And everything you say makes sense. The Holmes thing pitching for New York, I don't think that's that the Yankees missed on it. It's that that's how bad the Mets are.
I told you, get your son up and get him to start throwing some
Yeah.
long toss. Okay,
Right.
they might need him.
Uh,
All right, let's come to our team, Boston, Boston forever. And like I said the other day, in case you didn't catch it, there's two types of Boston fans. There's the ones in the cell. I'm going to put Brian there. There's the ones who should be in the cell like me, but are heavily medicated and we're wandering around in the middle of nowhere. Um, I I like the way our team looks. Obviously being Boston, we're going to be super critical. I don't understand a lot of the moves. Let's start with you, Brian. What do you think about the signing of Bregman and Crochet?
uh, I liked trading for Crochet.
Yeah.
Uh, I was a big advocate in the offseason of actually going for Blake Snell, who I kind of despise.
Hmm.
Because the guy never goes more than 6 innings. But in this era, I've come to accept the fact that all right, if that's the way it is, then go
Yeah.
get a guy who's really great at throwing 6 innings.
Right.
Uh, they didn't. I don't even know if they attempted to get Snell, but he didn't. They didn't get him. They got Crochet, great left-handed pitcher. The Red Sox had no left-handed starters last year, so
Okay.
I'm glad they got one. Uh, and he seems to be a pretty legit top of the line pitcher, although he's never had a large workload for a full season. So we'll see how that pans out. The Bregman signing, that was it's a very good signing. He's one of those players I've loved to hate since forever.
Hmm.
Probably just because he was an Astro. If he had come up as a Red Sox player, I probably would have loved him. He's kind of like the modern day version of Dustin Pedroia. I feel like everyone who wasn't a Red Sox fan hated that guy because
Sure.
he was just this little guy that was just tenacious and got the job done. So that's great. The problem I've found was when they get to spring training and there's two guys saying, "I'm the third baseman." Shouldn't that have been worked out ahead of time?
Eh,
Probably, but whatever. They seem to have got that figured out now, and I think what's going to be the biggest key for the Red Sox is going to be the development of the three young superstars they got coming up, or projected superstars they got coming up. How many of them are going to make the roster to start the season? How soon are the other ones going to get called up? And what kind of impact are they going to have on the team? That's going to be the biggest key, I think, because there are a couple of weak spots that they had last year. They came in third in the division. If those weak spots can get filled in, they should be able to take control because, like we said, the Yankees are going to be down this year and the
mhm.
Orioles as well.
Yeah, I agree. Let me start out with my assessment. I think the Bregman signing was really good. Personally, we don't know what goes on behind the curtain, but I think it must have happened really quick. I've always advocated that to be good in Boston, you need a right-handed power hitter. He fills that void. He's an all-star at third baseman. Obviously, you don't want to piss off your best player in Devers. I don't think I think he still believed he was the third baseman. I am surprised that Bregman hasn't played any games this spring training at second base, but okay, fine. They're going to work it out. I think the big weak link, I like the Crochet trade. I was surprised they didn't sign him to a contract extension. It seems kind of dangerous to me because if he goes out and has a 20-8 year, I don't even know if they're going to keep him because he's going to be outside the budget. The weak link on this team, and I am surprised they didn't address it, is Connor Wong. Connor Wong is, let's just call it, terrible behind the plate. He's bad on the defensive metrics. He doesn't pitch frame very well, and he literally cannot hit. And I was surprised. I mean, the great thing about Connor Wong is it's the last remnant of the Mookie Betts trade. Great. I get that reminder every day behind the dish, right? I got to remember that wound. God, it's like the girlfriend who leaves you and then she gets plastic surgery and implants and then you look at her and go, "Oh my God, what happened?" You know? Jesus Christ, I got to see that every day. I will say that I think the Red Sox have a very, very good starting staff. I like Roman Anthony. I think we are looking at him probably going to replace Rafaela in center field, but we're going to see what we're going to see. The big three, honestly, out of the big three, I'm hoping we hit on two. Tristan Campbell, maybe. I don't know about Meyer, whatever. But honestly, the roster is kind of full, for those 10, 12 guys that are everyday players. But, I think the pitching staff's good. I'm not happy with the bullpen. Hendricks hasn't pitched in a couple of years. A drawless Chapman. Oh my God. Okay. I mean, is he an upgrade from Jansen? I don't know. It's like saying, well, the paper trash can's an upgrade from the plastic one. Well, okay, but they're still trash cans. All right. So I'm picking them to go in first. I'm the Red Sox fan. I think they are a legitimate contender to go to the World Series. What's your assessment on the division and Boston, bro?
I feel the same way. The Red Sox, I believe, are the favorite to win the division and go into the World Series. I don't know. We'll talk about that when we review the rest of the AL.
Okay.
But as a
Okay.
Red
I
Sox
love
fan,
it.
of course, I'm rooting for them.
Well, of course, I understand, but you're trying to be, you look, we've always tried to be objective here. I mean,
Try.
look, look, I hate the Dodgers, but I realize how great they are. I wish that was our effing team, but, just maybe in the next decade. I don't know. Great. Great. All right. So, any more observations on the AL East before we adjourn here, my friend?
No, I'm good with the AL East. We've summed it up
Okay.
well. My takes are better than yours.
Well, time will tell. I remember last year when I said, "Hey, I think the Red Sox are going to be good," and you were like, "No, they're going to come in last. They're going to be in fifth." Yeah, I know, buddy. I know, buddy. Hey,
Fifth.
81 and 81. Okay.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, my friend. You have a really good weekend. Everybody, if you could hit the like and subscribe button, leave some comments. Tell me how great you think I am and how messed up Brian is, or vice versa. That seems to be the preponderance of comments. But all right. I will see you guys on Monday. And Brian, you have a good weekend, okay? All right,
All right,
beautiful.
later.